Welcome to episode 2 of the LibreOffice Podcast. This is our second episode. The first episode, we talked about marketing free and open source software like LibreOffice, some of the challenges of marketing in a competitive world, but also marketing not just a product, but a community as well, getting people to join a community. In this episode, we're going to talk about design and usability. And I'm Mike Saunders from the Document Foundation, the nonprofit behind LibreOffice. And my colleague over there, Heiko Tietze. Hello, Heiko.
Hello.
Oversees the LibreOffice's design UX, UI, usability community. So they work on improvements to the software's design. And we'll be talking a bit about some of the recent changes and some of the challenges as well that a design team has when working on free and open source software. So last month, where are we now? We're in the middle of March. So at the start of last month, we released our new major stable release of LibreOffice 25.2 with the year.month versioning system. With a bunch of new features and changes as well, but quite a few on the design and user interface side. So, Heiko, what are some of the most notable design UX related changes in 25.2?
Well, feels to me as if our release notes grow with each release. Everything more and more is being done with every new release, and everything is great. There might be details that get implemented or fixed and enhanced and improved. But sometimes we do larger changes. We had a couple in the last release regarding design. One that I personally like a lot is the new appearance way. It started a little bit many years ago with the persona. Persona was a term coming from Firefox, Mozilla persona, and we picked it up and provided a similar way to customize the appealing of the program by adding an image to the background, by changing the color gradient and that. Mozilla changed the way personas worked and broke our implementation. Someone fixed it. Mozilla changed again, and it broke again. So it was annoying. Over the years, this feature was not working at all. We also implemented some dark mode to make the application working on dark environments. It was kind of hijacking the modification of colors. It introduced a second set of colors, and we had another way to customize the application so it switches the background. Anyway, long story short, a lot of ways to change the appearance of the application, the look and feel, and to make it blend into the operating system, or to have it not blended, whatever you like. And in the last release, this was merged together into one way of modification of customization. Basic idea behind what I personally like a lot is that we relieve the user from changing the very details and let them have some to pick some broader option. Like in this case, it is an extension. I like extensions, something that every individual can help us, can support LibreOffice, can help the community. It needs, in this case, just to fiddle around with RGB values to create an XML file, put it, pack it into the proper format, and share it on our application extension side. The application itself can load it, and you can change the appearance of the application. Great feature. I like it a lot. People believe it is not much needed, and we should focus on more important parts. I have another feature if you want me to talk more. Something that is probably even more, that is more controversial. LibreOffice has grown from Star Office, Open Office, Apache Office, and whatnot into LibreOffice over 30 years and even more. And we have different concepts in the software, different ideas, and different people who work on it. That makes some details sometimes really difficult to understand, not only as a user, even as a developer. I'm not a developer, I'm a designer. I'm looking into the functionality. I try to verify if a feature is easy to use for the average user, something like this. But this is sometimes very difficult. One example was the way how text boundaries indicate or are switched on, and under what condition. There was dependency on the non-printing characters. So the pilcrow symbol that shows up at the end of the paragraph to show there is a user has pressed return to start a new paragraph. This symbol, to show or not, is bound, on the other hand, to the indicator of the page boundaries where the text ends. That's pretty weird. And there are other parts like tables, like sections, and more that get some boundaries, all in a really strange way combined. In particular, for the table, you had to go to the color customization to enable it. Ooh, double. Something that I took care of, and I removed everything, put it together, put the customization under the tools option writer section under formatting aids. So average user might not find it easily. A bit more experienced user hopefully do not struggle too much. Then I added one option to enable everything. And people come and say, oh, no, that's not going to work. It is terrible. And partially it is. For example, the idea was that most users probably want a distraction-free editing capability of the software. You want to write just down a letter and do not care about pressing enter twice or about where exactly the page size, the content of the document ends in relation to the page. That was the idea, to remove everything by default, which makes it a bit hard for tables without borders to spot. And yeah, the development was a bit not really broken, but and we fixed it. Someone else took care of it, or did I? I don't remember. And in the next release, this part is fixed. So, point is, we have a lot of goodies. We are not perfect. We iterate with every release. We improve, and yeah, now it's up to the user to tell us if it's nice and great.
Yeah, I know there are so many different workflows, and being on social media as well for LibreOffice, I see people who, like you say, want to write a letter. They want the absolute minimum user interface. They want stripped down, bare bones. They don't understand why it is so complicated for the software to be able to do so many things in the background, like you were talking about. And then you have very, very more less experienced users, because like you say, the code base goes back to OpenOffice and StarOffice before that, and so there were some things in the interface, in the menus, that have been there for, what can we say now, 40 years perhaps, since StarWriter. Yeah, so people have these expectations that something will always be in the same place, or the options will always be in the same place. But if you want to simplify something, it must be difficult.
It is always hard to remove features. Adding stuff, more and more features, that's simple. But if we remove something, for sure someone shows up and say, oh no, you break my workflow. But that's well known from every application, from every tool.
Yeah, I guess that finding that balance between giving people one big toggle to turn things on and off, as there's lots of fine-grained controls as well. So yeah, a lot of people just want one button for dark mode, turn dark mode on, and then other people want extremely fine-grained controls over every tiny element in the interface.
That's exactly true. I personally, I like the simple application that do not give you all the options by default. Make it, I think it made, if we stick to the office productivity context, it made Google great. It is a great application for simple workflows. You open it, you type your text, you have a few options to modify, and that's all. I know people um, who really love the presentation part. I don't know the name. I personally, I don't understand why. And at some point, you need the ability to go beyond the basic functionality. And there, Google won't help you. There you might need a different application. Microsoft Office, great application. But if you need to understand how it works, if you go even further, if you want to change something that is not done by anything else or something very special, then you don't have a chance with even applications that are the market leader. Well,
Yeah, and how do you make things discoverable as well? Because so often I see LibreOffice being used in places where people are centering text by pressing the spacebar 1,000 times to move a piece, and then you show them some buttons on the toolbar that are visible by default on the toolbar, and yet they don't use them. So this is not some obscure feature tucked away in an experimental mode that you have to compile a developer build. All the stuff is there, but I don't know a lot about this. But yeah, discoverability. But some things are just there in front of your eyes anyway.
it's a nice aspect of software. We trust a lot in icons and users with a bit experience in the muscle memory. You always click at some point, then you know what to do. I think everyone knows an application that exactly works how it has to work, and if you change something, everything breaks. But it is not so easy to trust the icons. We provide options to pick an icon from different themes, mostly because we want to blend into the different operating systems. You get one icon theme on Windows, has some name. You get a different icon theme on macOS, and it makes the application, the user feel home on the system. That's one of the basic ideas of LibreOffice. But uh, sometimes the icon might be not enough to identify the operation. Not might, it is for sure. We have a million, okay, a gazillion different functions and 1,000 different icons, and no one can remember the different icons. I could imagine for the center icon, you need to very clear, you need to take a lot of care into the small bars that identify left aligned and centered and right aligned. What we could do to solve the problem is to label all the elements. Labels are great. Labels help to understand what is going on, and you quickly read. It is a challenge for when it comes, first of all, to localization. There are languages that take much more space than English. I mean, Finnish is one of the fun stories, which has a lot of letters to describe a simple thing, more or less. Maybe it's the opposite sometimes. I don't want to blame the Finnish people for their language, but we need to take care with all the design that we do of different languages. The length of text that must not change everything in the UI and make it less appealing than it is. And of course, it is the amount of functionality. it is actually possible to enable the labels on a toolbar, the classic toolbar. You can show centered next to the icon or just the label. But in this case, the number of functions on the standard or formatting toolbar that are the two on top of the UI in Writer, we don't have enough space. We have users who run a machine with low resolution. Maybe not always an old machine, but that's one idea we have. We don't want the user to run the latest machines and to dump everything which has an age more than 2 years. That's ridiculous. 10 years old computers should still work and do work properly with LibreOffice. But in this case, you have a low resolution. And to fit functions that 90% of users want to have at a certain place, it's the same size, that's a bit of a challenge. If you talk about the primary UI, we have many users who are familiar with Microsoft products and expect us to do something like a ribbon. It is maybe the next question you would ask me. This, we call it notebook bar. It's not really a ribbon, but it looks a bit familiar. It has the opportunity to show the labels, but also trusts a lot in the icons. And it is, from my point of view, not really easy to use. It is just one way to deal with the UI, but not the best, I would say.
Yeah, because I remember there was this discussion about having a floppy disk icon used for saving, for instance. What does that mean? I mean, we're geeks who can remember floppy disks, but it's going back along. But perhaps it's become such a novelty now that people who've grown up without floppy disks still associate that with saving. That weird icon, that thing I've never seen in real life. That means saving. But then for a lot of people now, what does saving actually mean? They save into the cloud, or you have mobile devices which don't really expose the file system. So
that was how I started to get involved 10, 12 or more years ago. I run an analysis about icons, and it is very typical for designers to draw an arrow. And if the arrow comes from top down, it means to save. And what? And yeah, sure, it is safe. No, the floppy disk is obviously a great icon and a great way to represent it. Then it comes quickly to design questions. Now let me try to pronounce it correctly. Skeuomorphics. It was
skeuomorphism or something. Yeah, I've never said the word. I've written about it before, but yeah.
Yes. It was the idea of macOS to make the icons appear much more like in real life. Beautiful. But the zeitgeist has changed, and I think flat icons that are everywhere nowadays are in general easy to recognize. Still, at this point, it is an aesthetical question. Going back to the interface, the mixture of good icons and labels, it is crucial and perhaps a choice for the user. Something where they can decide or can start off. I'm a beginner, I don't know the software, so I need help from the software, which is not clippy. I want to read. Reading or skimming over some text, that's very quick, much faster than hovering over an icon and waiting for the tooltip to understand what it means.
Yeah, I guess that cosmetic side is one element of usability then, because I was thinking, how do you define usability? I learned Vim years ago, and Vim became very usable for me, but it's completely unusable if you've never come across it before. Modal editing, absolutely no feedback unless you turn on like status lines and things. So some people say, oh, Vim is really, really usable when you know how to use it already. But what does usability actually mean? I guess we've touched on it a bit with things like icons, but
of course, it goes deeper into software, and the more you learn about software, the better you understand what and how to use. I have one example from Calc. As a usability or UX team, you have to analyze the user behavior from time to time, and we ask them what features they use and how happy they are, what they prefer, and at the end, everything is on the block and available, and even with data, everything is transparent. So what I'm talking now is in detail. Everyone can read it on the blog post. The point is here, some of these functions are well known by everyone, copy paste. Some are less well known, and if one compares the amount of knowledge, bad word, how well people know the certain feature with how the other people who know it, how much they attribute it to importance, then you find easily functions that needs more love, that needs to be handled easier. One example in this case would be the pivot table. When you put some data, crunch it, merge it, and put it into a new table, people who know this feature, they cannot live without it. Others, they would. Pivot table, what is it? Usability is always a question of the use case, first of all, the scenario, the user. In general, it defines some kind of persona based on real data. It analyzes the scenario. It requires to know what people want to achieve, and puts this together, goes back and back and round, and iterates again and again. But it has mostly in situations with limited scenarios. Some specialized software, it has a clear use case. You enter something and you want to achieve something. Office productivity is a broad topic. People want to write a letter or create a thesis, write a comic. They want to create some weird stuff with a wrong application, and it is not perfectly clear. In many cases, we cannot make everyone happy or perfectly happy, and we need to focus on the majority. We are not VI, or VI is one dedicated, Vim is one dedicated program for the nerds, and LibreOffice is for the other nerds, and hopefully for not just the nerds.
Yeah. How do you go about actually implementing changes then? So we have in LibreOffice the design community, and you are overseeing their work, and I guess we have developers from the ecosystem, we have volunteers as well, and people in all sorts of different areas. So how does a change typically come about? Is it like somebody goes onto Bugzilla and says, hey, this feature I find hard to use, it was impossible to discover? I know you have different tools and you have like mock-up tools as well. What's a typical kind of way that an improvement comes about?
We take the input of users. We are actually also users, but it is not like a dictatorship. We don't tell the users how they have to work. Input is done on Bugzilla. They write a bug report. Something is broken, something does not work as expected, or they have ideas how the application can be enhanced, enhancement requests. write it down. We have typically a conversation. We discuss it a couple of times, clarify, for example, the use case, clarify if it is backed up by some standards, the idea, if it is usable in more scenarios by different users, things like that. Create some possible solution that can be a mock-up, which is kind of a drawing of the resulting dialogue that often helps to understand the workflow better than just writing down, you click here and then it happens there. The mock-up is always a good help here. But the point is, if we change the workflow, the developer needs to understand what to do, how it affects the software, and like any other people, no one wants to read a lot and try to replicate mentally the other's idea. Look at the picture. We have a couple of companies around in the ecosystem who do a lot of really great work and share their work with open source community on LibreOffice. But we also have volunteers. We have many volunteers who do it in their spare time, and everyone is welcome. To point that out very much clearly, everyone is welcome. It makes the software great. It makes a project great. It is okay. We can talk about this later. The thing with this development is that one needs a lot of time to understand the code. It has many millions, 10 millions lines of code. Once you understand a little bit of the structure, or you get the help, it is not so difficult to read the code. Some parts like calc are almost art, are beautiful to read and beautiful to understand and easy combined, and other parts are a bit more complex, to say it politely. We have students who takes the time to understand the code and implement larger pieces. That's often done and sponsored by Google Summer of Code. We participate in the project since it was started. And for example, this appearance project was one of the Google Summer of Code students, who, by the way, was hired, or now he is an intern at one of the companies in the ecosystem. We have almost every year students that are convincing to the companies to hire them. So it's not just the money that Google pays for the students. It is not just the fun to do something for millions of users and to realize something. Writing code is a great thing to get something really done and to make it nice, but it's also a chance to put it on your CV and even to get a job.
Yeah, we've used this from the marketing side before to encourage people to join the project and get involved in LibreOffice and open source, because traditionally free software sort of community marketing has been join a project because we're all working on this nice thing together and it's nice for you and nice for the world. But I think it's worth pointing out some of the more personal benefits as well. So you make join the LibreOffice design community, you make a change to some element of the interface, that goes out then to tens of millions of users who will benefit from it. Some people will be annoyed by it, whatever, any kind of change, but you've had an impact. And then, like you say, you can put that in your CV and say, my work is now being used by millions of people. So
yes, that's the point. And it's not just we as TDF, like you and me, we don't dictate anyone what to do. It is an open source project in the very basic sense that you do open source. You as a user want a feature, implement it. We help. We make it possible. My contribution is to warn users to do nothing in a very complicated way, to not add much on the primary UI to consider other users, maybe accessibility, localization, and an end. But no one stops anyone to request a feature, to get in contact with the developers, to discuss with experts about the software. If you compare this with commercial products, you have no way to talk to the design team, to the leader of the design team. What? You don't even know who it is. And LibreOffice, it is pretty easy to get in contact with the CEO. If there was one for the development, there is no. But
Yeah.
even the development, we have some kind of a committee people that come together and talk about the development. Design is close to development, so I'm part of this committee, and it is open for everyone. People can join and can ask questions, and that's something that we encourage users. From the design team or the design aspect, it is pretty easy for me to make proposals. It is tagged on Bugzilla as easy hack, skill design, difficulty beginning. So it means it is easy to implement. It is something that affects the design, and it is for the beginners. In this case, many of these changes are just labels, as you said. And changing a label does not require any knowledge in programming. People need to understand how a computer works. It is not really bad to understand what Git is. But in the end, you don't even need Git for a label change. There are different ways, and you may want to talk to other people who can explain it better than me. But the actual change, as you said, where you can make an impact, that is the entry hurdle for this is very low. There's no big barrier. It goes step by step further and reaches quickly a point where you need a more expertise. That's for sure.
I think, you talked about the transparency as well, and the fact that it's all in the open. And I think it's interesting because although I'm not really involved in design, I'm browsing around Bugzilla and keeping eyes on different parts of the project. And I often see quite intense discussions going on in the design team about what to do about something. And then some people, I think, wow, look at that. From the outside, look at this big discussion, even this argument they're having. But those same discussions and arguments are happening inside the closed companies. It's just you've got no idea. So people have no idea what they're talking about. I was reading today rumors of Apple radically changing the design of iOS in the next release.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything. We can't read their discussions. We have no insight into the decisions they're making and why, even if you disagree with them. So I think having it in the open is people say, oh, look, they're arguing about something. They're having a big argument about and not just in design, but in QA and stuff. But I think that's fine. That's great. It's there, and then anybody can join in and add their mustard, as we say in good German.
Yes, that's very German. Add your mustard. I'm pretty sure the big companies base their decision on user data, user input surveys, but they don't tell you exactly what is done. They don't tell you how they analyze data. The amount of work is likely also so huge. Sorry for this. I guess they analyze data from thousands of people in many different ways before they do some the big decision, the disruptive change in the software, for sure. We don't do it in this large. Maybe we do it similarly, but we don't reach everyone in the community. We typically reach only the people who are interested in participation, who read on social media what LibreOffice is doing, who follows LibreOffice channels where you multiply and share the invitation to a poll, to a survey. And even then, not everyone is eager to spend 10, 20 minutes in a survey, answer some weird questions. Yes, that's something that we cannot solve. As an open source project, we cannot do it. But what we do is to tell people why we do something, what exactly we do, and how it the results, and some more example why it might be helpful. I do my data analysis with R, and I create graphics with R. It is a nice way, I believe, to do some, it's not even statistics, but to data analysis. And if you like my graphics, you can look into the code and learn how I create the graphics from the data. You get the raw data, what people answered, of course, anonymously, and you get the code to analyze this data. Isn't it cool? I think so.
Yeah, that's the raw openness of it. Yeah. So anybody who's watching this and thinks, hey, I want to poke my nose around, have a look around, get involved in the LibreOffice design community, what's the best way to start? Get on IRC, Telegram, mailing list?
Yes, the design group is everywhere. We have a special IRC channel, we have a Telegram group, and we have a matrix room. There are bridges between Telegram and IRC and Telegram and matrix, so the chat systems understand each other if the bridge is running well. Most people are on Telegram. It's a convenient way and simple. There is a mailing list that reaches out to a couple of hundred people who are registered on the mailing list. It has not much traffic. It mostly has the announcement and the minutes to the meeting. I do meetings every second week. It changes between Wednesday and Thursday. So we have meetings every week, 1 week dedicated to or meant for people from the West, and the other week meant for people from the East. And everyone is welcome to join the meeting. I announce in advance the topics. It comes from Baxilla, input from users, where I cannot do quick replies, or where I feel my reply would be a bit premature. It would be too quickly if I think it is not needed to do a request and resolve a ticket, and people put a lot of effort into writing down their wish. At least we should talk about it. Sometimes I think like so. Participation in the design group is possible on the chats. People can just hang out in our chats and read what people write. They can participate in the meeting or just listen to what others talk about. They can comment on Baxilla. This is very much welcome. That is the first and most important way to contribute to user experience and design. Comment on tickets, or even maybe make proposals on Baxilla. Everyone can tag a ticket to be relevant for the UX group. There's a special keyword, needs UX eval, that needs to be combined with a CC, but overly difficult. It is possible to trigger the attention, to trigger the attention of the UX people on Baxilla if you just want to get input. And of course, doing the actual grunt work, that's great. Analyzing what people said.
Yeah, and then actually doing it, because you
Yes.
mentioned that as well before. Doers decide. Yeah, we get so many questions saying, when will LibreOffice have feature X or improvement Y? And say, well, when somebody steps up to implement it, and doers decide project. Yeah, and so Yeah, thanks for those insights, Heiko, into the way the design team works. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Well, no, I do. I'm glad to do the work. I'm happy to welcome everyone else. And if I can convince people from using LibreOffice, from going into the open source world to use open source, then my job is perfectly done.
I think pretty much all of us in the LibreOffice project agree with that. Yeah, having lots of users is really nice, but having lots of contributors is even better as well. So
Yes.
have a nice active community. Yeah. So thanks, Heiko. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And then keep an eye or ear out for the next episode 3. Not sure what it will be about yet, but we have lots of other projects, sub-projects in LibreOffice to talk to as well, like a QA documentation. So let's see what comes up next. But thanks everybody, and bye-bye.
Bye.